So if you're watching this video, you're probably looking for a short-term lease in New York City. Now, this is very, very common, and I've actually have looked for a short-term lease for myself and have been a person that offers a short-term lease as well. So I've been on both different sides of the situation here. So I'm just going to share exactly my experience, what I did, and how you can define one for yourself. So when I say short-term lease, I'm referring to anything under a year. I'm not talking about anything that would be under 30 days. Anything under 30 days is a whole nother legal issue with the city of New York City because of short-term rental laws. I have separate videos that I'm going to be posting about that topic in general, but I'm talking about anything that would be 30 days up. So anywhere between 30 days to a full year, so 365 days, I guess. Like I said, short-term rentals are very, very common in New York City because people are here temporarily. Sometimes people like to test out a neighborhood or like to test out New York City in general to see if they like living here. So they're very, very common. Now, there's a couple places that you can go online to find a short-term lease. And the two main big places that I would recommend going to is one, actually going to be Facebook. You might be kind of surprised by that because be like, okay, Facebook, I thought that was for like, bad social media posts. I didn't think that that was for anything that would be like useful when it comes to Manhattan. And actually, Manhattan has a very, very large community on Facebook. So there's a lot of groups specifically that focus on short-term rentals or like kind of like unique housing and things like that. So people who are looking for roommates are on Facebook groups. People who are looking to break their lease and find a replacement are on Facebook. I want you to start there, going through different Facebook groups. The other place that you can go to, there's this app called Lease Break, and this is what I used specifically. Now, Lease Break is going to be probably the quickest way that you can find a short-term rental because it's basically the same thing as like sites like Zillow and StreetEasy where you can just find the actual listings and look through it like that and actually use the search features. Facebook is a little bit harder because you have to kind of sift through all the comments or kind of like use the search bar to see what comes up, and that can be a little bit more frustrating. Now, I've used both options. So when it came to actually signing a short-term sublet, I ended up using Lease Break and I didn't use Facebook for that. Now, I was searching for a while on Facebook, but I ended up, the lease I signed was through a Lease Break. But I do think that Facebook groups could be a really good option, especially if it's kind of like a short-term place with a roommate, that your best bet actually in that scenario might be Facebook groups. Now, the Lease Break that I used was me and my husband, like we were a couple living together. We didn't have roommates. So that's why the Lease Break definitely was a little bit of an easier option for us because we could look for a place where we can take over the whole apartment ourselves. But if I was looking to just like have a room or something, I would probably go to Facebook honestly first before Lease Break. If anybody has an experience with either one of these, please share in the comments because I know that would really help everyone out to hear other people's stories as well. So another company that has come around in the last couple of years is called Blue Ground. Some of you might have seen their listings popping up around New York City, and they cover, I believe, Brooklyn and Manhattan right now. They might even be in other boroughs as well, but at least I know that they're definitely in Manhattan and Brooklyn. And what they do is they focus on short-term leases with buildings. So they are actually kind of like the landlord like that is subletting to people on a short-term basis. So maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months. And it tends to be in bigger buildings that are kind of like doorman buildings that are pretty trendy, at least for the most part. I've noticed that they tend to be in more of those buildings. So the company is called Blue Ground. They're also in other cities around the US right now. So if you're coming from another city, you might even recognize them from there. I'm not sure how long they've been around this company. I don't really know too much about them, but I do know that I've been seeing them come up with a ton of short-term options for people. And I really do think it's great because although I don't have any personal experience with the company, I think it's a great concept because sometimes it's really hard to find a place short-term. And I know from experience, sometimes it takes a while. So if you can find a company that is willing to do that for a fair price in the market, then I think it's a great service to offer. So those are the three main options that I would recommend. Now, word of mouth is also going to be something that you can like consider in New York City. A lot of people end up getting apartments through word of mouth. So if you have colleagues or friends that might be able to help you with that situation, always feel free to ask around because honestly, in New York City, apartments and like dining and going out is like all people talk about. So like if you bring up like your apartment search or your situation to like anybody you know, it's not even strange. People love to help other people out finding apartments here. So definitely just ask around too if that's something that you can do if you're already here. So I hope this helped you figure out how to find a short-term lease. It's definitely not the easiest process, but it's also very, very common here. So like I said before, it's not strange to ask around or to be in this situation because so many people at different points in time in New York City have that situation. So if you have any other suggestions or if anybody has any stories to share in the comments, like I said before, we would love to hear it because I think that everyone can learn from each other's experiences.